Hello everyone. So today we are going to learn about the chapter 6 of history, and the name of the chapter is Development of Urban Center, Trade and Communities. So basically this chapter covers the emergence of urban centers in medieval India, and we also will learn about the differences between the founded towns and those that grew up as a result of trade, and we also will know about the organization of tribal societies in medieval India. Okay, so let us start. Town traders and craftsmen in medieval India. During medieval period, India had temples, towns, administrative towns, commercial or port towns. Many towns combined multiple functions and were administrative centers or temple towns as well as commercial or craft center. That means, see, the many of the larger villages or like pargans and like thana headquarters were gradually transformed into the towns, and now they were known as kasbas. Before they were like pragans or village or thana, but now in medieval India they transformed it and it becomes a town or kasbas. So during early medieval India or times, these places usually had a village setting. Okay. However, from the 14th century onwards, these places become a significant center for various crafts and like a commercial transaction. Okay. So next we have is administrative town. So this towns such as like Delhi or Agra and Hampi, they were developed. Okay, and they were developed as centers of power and administration. So these were the capital cities of the empires in the medieval times. So administrative towns were founded by the ruler and the noblemen as well as, and by the ruler of the provincial dynasties. This Daulatabad was founded by the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and same way Firoz Shah Tughlaq founded Jaunpur, which is in Uttar Pradesh, and this Bahlul Lodi rebuilt Agra. Again, it is in Uttar Pradesh. Yes, this Akbar added Fatehpur Sikri as a satellite town and founded Allahabad near Prayag, which is now known as Prayagraj. And Ahmedabad in Gujarat was founded by the independent ruler, and his name was Sultan Ahmad Shah I. So it flourished under both the Gujarat Sultans as well as under the Mughal Sultans. Okay. Then next we have is religious town. So this religion occupied an important place in the life of the people. Okay, and it occupied an important place in the life of the people in ancient also, and in medieval India also, and in modern India also. Yes, we all have an important place for this religion, for our religion. Yes, to fulfill the religious needs of the people, the king often built a temple in medieval India, and this Thanjavur developed into a flourishing town, mainly due to many temples built there. Similarly was in case of Madurai, Tirupati or Somnath. Okay, so people went on this pilgrimage to place where saints or like fakirs or religious teachers had lived. They preached and attained salvation there. So people visited these towns during a specific month. Okay, there is a specific month for the people to visit on the towns. Okay, towns of the temple. So during those months, these people also hosted fairs, and which attract the many other people apart from the devotees also. And places, towns like Banaras, not town but it is now city, Banaras, Mathura, Allahabad, Vrindavan, all are the example of such towns. Okay, they were the famous for their religious temple. So, and again, like the dargahs of Sufis and to become an important center for pilgrimage. Okay, and these dargahs of Khwaja, Muhyiddin, then at Ajmer, and Khwaja Hazrat Nizamuddin, Aulia at Delhi, and then Khwaja Salim attracted a lot of devotees. Okay, And again, like in Amritsar, yes, Amritsar, the holy city of the Sikhs, yes, and it became into a prominence in the 16th century, and it owes its popularity to the Golden Temple that came up on the land donated by the Akbar. Next we have trade centers. Okay, ancient Indian merchants, traders, and men engrossed in commercial pursuits. In the early medieval India, had a rich trade relation with the neighboring and western countries. The exports and imports consisted of pieces, stone, gold, silver, clothes, and commodities. See, the bulk of production was sold in the town itself and in nearby the towns. So most of the purchase was made by the Banjaras. Okay, Banjaras were the people who used to roam from one place to another to sell their commodities or goods. Okay, so and they in turn carried it to the other towns and markets. And this Tavernier, a French traveler who came to India in the second half of the 17th century, and that in almost every town, like rice or flour or butter, milk, or like vegetables, sugar, and other sweets could be bought. Okay, so in some towns, even sheep, goat, fowl, etc. were also available. Okay, sometimes they bring sheep, goat, fowl, etc. Okay, so according to him, every big town would have even a saraf of money changer. Okay, they were like the money changer. Okay, so in addition, every locality had markets in the nearby towns where people from the surrounding areas would come to buy and sell things. Apart from this, they have the regular market also. Okay, and these regular markets were called as hats. Okay, hat bazaar. Okay, so where people from the town could exchange or buy things of their daily needs. Okay, and these hats were like a periodic market. Okay, that were held on fixed days or a week. Now we have like a hat bazaar. Okay, they have a specific time and days. Okay, so sometimes they were hats for specific goods also. Okay, so in this local market, foods, grains, salt, or simple tools or equipments of wood and iron for agriculture and domestic needs, and like raw materials for cotton textiles were available. So this market existed in all the small townships. So almost like in every pargana had a market, means every town have a market, every village have a market and a wholesale market. Okay, it seems like that a network of a small or big markets like hearts or like mandis. Okay, so and the merchant in their individual capacities took care of the commercial activities in the various localities. Okay, like individual villages were probably a part of a narrow circuit of exchange which encompassed uh, the mandis and distributes they took the responsibility of distributing the commodities. Okay, and these local trading centers were linked to the bigger commercial centers in that region also. And like if we take Mughal province, okay, as a region, we notice that each of them had bigger commercial centers, and they serve as nodal center for all the commodities produced in various parts of the Subba. Okay, so generally these big towns also serves as administrative headquarters of the Subba. Next we have is caste and societies in medieval India. See, in the early medieval period, four castes, mainly Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, theoretically existed throughout northern India, but they were not watertight compartment. The Sudras came to have the longest number of the castes. Okay, like in during the Vedic times, the society was divided into the four castes, or like we can say varnas. and they were Brahmins, then Kshatriyas, then Vaishyas and Sudras. So though the caste system began as an like occupational division of labor, it soon became the rigid and hereditary. So by the medieval period, the Brahmin became very powerful and enjoyed the immense privileges. Okay, they were exempt from paying tax. They were not bound to pay the tax. And this, in the medieval period, also saw that the rise of many new castes and subcastes also arises. And most of these castes were occupation based, and such as that the like weavers, carpenters, fishermen, etc. So the condition of women also deteriorated during this period. Like polygamy was a common and female infanticide. Polygamy means a person can marry more than one lady, okay, or there is allowed of more than one marriage, okay, was common. So education for women was not encouraged in the medieval time, but the practice of sati and johar was also widely practiced there. Okay. Next we have tribal societies in medieval India. Two parallel societies always existed side by side. One that was central to the society, that was a caste-based society. The other was a more marginalized group that remained on the periphery of the main society. That means two parallel societies always existed side by side, okay, and one was that the central to the society, that is based on the caste society, and the other was the more marginalized group that remained on the main society, and this include the tribal who lived away from the main habitation of village and towns. These people lived in like a dense forest or mountain, hill, desert, etc. Yes, and these tribal communities have certain distinct characteristics which makes them different from the caste-based society, and they have like some general features, okay, like relationship binds the member of the community, and they were like they don't have the like burners and jatis based system, they doesn't exist in among the tribal. Their absence of strong, complex or formal mm, government or state system, or like land belong to the entire communities, or like lack of distinction between form and substance of religion, okay. So in the medieval period their influence increased as the communities were placed in areas, okay, so which control major trade routes. So with the expansion of the trade and war, the Mughal armies often came in the contact with the tribals, and some of the tribal rose to prominence, and they paid tribute to the Mughal emperors. Okay, so this is all about the chapter 6, development of urban centers, trade and communities. Thank you.